to today's our session. Today's is our 50th continuous day of webinar, and our session is 66th webinar we are having. And Mr. N. Venkatraman sir addressed so many times in our webinar series. Now once again we have requested sir to address on the Black Money Act. So far as the Black Money Act is concerned, the Madras High Court has contributed much. Of course, the first case was appeared by our senior Mr. N. Venkatraman only. So today we'll be having an enlightening session on the Black Money Act and the overall view of the black money itself. So with this in the brief introduction, I welcome Mr. N. Venkatraman, senior advocate to present this lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Pratik, can you give me screen sharing, please?
Yes, sir. I have enabled it, sir. Yes, sir. It is seen properly.
Yeah. Can I start?
Sure, sir. Yes, sir.
Mala Sudha Kumbha Vibodha Mudra Vidyavirajat Karavari Jatam Apara Karunya Sudamburashim Shri Sharadambam Pranatosmi Nityam. My dear friends and well-wishers, happy to be here again. This time, of course, with a new genre, though a very old rhythm, which would have rung in our ears several times and for several decades, to discuss black money in the backdrop of this post-COVID or a recovery COVID situation makes this topic very apt and relevant. Before I proceed to first speak, I should thank my two juniors, Jayalakshmi and Ariman Gulati, who sat through because APS called me 2 days back and said, we need to shift the talk on freedom of press to next Saturday. So this Saturday slot has to be black money, should get ready, and gave some about 36, 40 hours for us. These two children sat through with us, and we could bring this PowerPoint because of their help. And therefore, I'm duty bound to thank both of them. Thanks, Jaya, and thanks, Aryaman. I must also acknowledge and refer to these are the texts on which this talk has been prepared. The books of Professor Vaidyanathan and Shailendra Kumar. Then the reports submitted by the CBDT in 2012, and a very, very detailed account by 4 eminent personalities of India who had compiled the multifaceted perspectives of black money. Shri Gurumurthy, Ajit Doval, Professor Vaidyanathan, and Mahesh Jethmalani. The various articles authored by Gurumurthy sir. Then this Indian Institute of Management report by Charan Singh is something to do with demonetization. So there is something to speak about that. And of course, Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam, the Vice Chancellor of Shastra Deemed University, who has conducted a lot of programs on this topic. And he's very, very current on the subject. He could add value. Even this morning, he sent me a very important slide on education. Thank you, Vaidya sir. And various articles, news clippings, and website reports together constitute the preparation which we are likely to see for the next few minutes. What is the definition of black money? We talk about it, but what do you mean by black money? See, when you receive an income and do not pay tax, that money partakes the character of black money. What does it mean? Not pay tax. Suppose I'm an agriculturist. I earn agricultural income. Am I generating black money? So, what is taxable but not paid? will constitute on the first category. What is not taxable, what is taxable and not paid will come under the third category. What is not taxable but still not accounted will come under the first category. You buy a soap and you pay cash, and the stores take that cash into their coffers and they start circulating it as cash. Then it's an income earned, liable to tax and not paid, and therefore becomes black money. An agriculturist who doesn't maintain accounts, he need not pay tax, but nobody says he should not maintain accounts. Then you can always put a mice and take a dinosaur, or put a dinosaur and take a mice in terms of loss and profits when it comes to agricultural produce. This is a huge sector. So that again becomes, such an earning becomes a black money, and money earned out of illegal methods certainly constitutes black money. And black money and corruption are sesame twins. They can never be separated. Corruption breeds the biggest chunk of black money all over the world, especially the post-globalization era. Before we venture to understand some basic concepts, three important key principles should be borne in mind. Only then we can venture into the study of black money. It's like reading economics. You can start from anywhere and end up anywhere. Such a wide subject. So certain ground rules we need to basically formulate before we can take the subject on hand and then deal it. See, there are three key elements to black money: generation, infiltration, and use. Why this is put here is, all the three need not land in the same place. Country A can generate black money, and it can infiltrate in 10 different countries, and it can find its use in 100 different ways. For example, India is considered to be a black money generating nation. It's a center which can generate black money because there is so much bandwidth for us to do that. So there are generating economies, the BRIC countries, especially Brazil, Russia, India, and China, or they lead the list in terms of generation of black money. Now, the second aspect to black money is, there are three main sources. Their generation comes under different categories, which I'll show you a little later. But essentially, they touch upon these three basic areas: crime, corruption, and tax evasion. And more importantly, when it comes to tax evasion, it again has three bottom lines to it. It can result in cheaper money, legitimate money made available cheap. I will explain it a little later. How unaffordable goods become affordable goods because of black money. Cheaper money is one angle of black money. Two, there are, like we have banks, there are fund managers of black money across nations. They run it like a bank. So if somebody wants, you don't have to actually generate black money. If you want black money, then it is available in the market. You can go and buy it. And there is a price for it. So there are parallel banking systems who run a black money bank economy. And more importantly, third is, nations have identified themselves and won the trust of various other countries that they become entrepreneurial countries generating black money. A fund manager gives fund and you have to only pay interest. It's service. Whereas an entrepreneur country, you give money to them. They will invest it in their own way, multiply the money and give it to you in many folds. So these are the positions or avatars which black money technically can take. So these three aspects should be borne in mind whenever we refer to a topic on black money. Otherwise, it will be a rudderless ship. You will ultimately feel very hazy about it. Now, with this background, let us discuss the first two sub-points in this slide, and the rest will collapse into it. Basically, the whole world which depends on black money, not a single country is an exception. But how they use it, how they generate it, how they identify it depends on the local conditions and the needs. Now, the two broad tax havens, you can say three, entrepreneurial is also one, which I will refer to again. The two broad tax havens that operate in the world. What do you mean by a tax haven? See, India imposes 33% tax. US imposes 35% tax. Singapore imposes higher tax. So anywhere taxation, income tax is not like your GST at 18 or 15 or 12 or 5 or 10. It's at a higher rate. Therefore, there are countries which offer or attract business or investments saying that our jurisdiction will offer you a lower rate of tax. It's not something very new to us. I mean, living in Tamil Nadu, the kind of impact we have all faced prior to 2005, before VAT came into picture between Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, is a typical example. In Tamil Nadu, if you want to sell a refrigerator, it has to suffer 12-13% tax, because only then you can run the machinery, because there are so many people to take care. Whereas Pondicherry can afford with just, you can put 1% tax across all goods, it will still be a surplus economy. Such a small state, and it's our neighbor state. So you would have, how many cases you would have argued, you would have defended, you would have advised. Initially, goods will go as consignment and come back. Then papers will go as though lorries have gone and come back. Finally, nothing will go, but still you will get an invoice from Pondicherry saying it is 1% tax, and the next door neighbor will deliver the fridge to you. So this lower tax jurisdiction works in that manner. In a Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu scenario, it works this way. But in a global scenario, it works in a very interesting way. For example, see, let's take a product from USA. You want a phone or say a computer software, any item. Say it's $100. What can, India is the buyer, buying country, US is a selling country. So what do? US can invoice India at $100, collect $100 from India, offer it to tax in USA and pay 35% tax, which means it is $35. Now, Ireland will say, it's a small country. Ireland says, I can offer a low tax jurisdiction at 12.5%. That's why those who know international taxation, they know the double sandwich model, Ireland and Netherlands, which is like double sandwich means it's going twice up and down, which is exactly the Pondicherry Tamil Nadu model, a global scale. Now, what will US do? The company which can produce the product will own the patent or own the trademark, own the brand, own the royalty, or own the intangible right. And it will create a subsidiary in Ireland and allow manufacture and replication there. Then what will Ireland do? It will hire the services of its own subsidiary at Singapore. which is again a low tax jurisdiction in terms of international taxation. And it will, if Ireland is having the right to produce, the owner holds the intangible, the right to produce is with Ireland. Ireland will license it to Singapore for Asia Pacific market. It will hold the license itself for the European market. Then Singapore will sell to India at $100. So India will remit Singapore $100. Singapore will retain $15, give $85 to Ireland. And Ireland will retain $70 and give $15 as royalty to the owner of the intangible in US. So now what US gets a tax is 35% on $15. Ireland will tax $70 at 12.5%. And Singapore will tax $15 again at a very less rate. Now, between US and Ireland, you come to the second bullet, US and Ireland, if there is a Cayman Island, a BV or a Liechtenstein or a Luxembourg, countries you will have to discover in the geography map. Now you will have to actually go by ship or boat or navigate or swim to reach that place. So they will say, I will offer you zero tax. So what happens if Ireland is going to push $70 into that company in Cayman Island? What happens? $1.5 is the tax in US. Again, some $0.50 or so in Ireland, and again $1 or $2 in Singapore. All put together, the transaction suffers only 4% tax as against 35% tax. This was the global model which was running, say, till 2009. And even after that, it spilled over for next, after 5, 6, 7 years after that also. So when the global meltdown happened, US said, enough is enough, we can't run with 4% collection. We should now shoot down these tax habits. So this is an economic model. Everything is accounted. Every transaction is booked. What you get in the process is, see, if US gets $35 as tax, the recovery is only $65 for the economic recovery in the transaction. Whereas if the cumulative tax is only $4, $30, $31 goes to Cayman Island out of that 70. You have expenses and other things, profit share. So there is an extra $30, $31 sitting in Cayman Island. What will it do? It will again come back as an investment. That's why we say these jurisdiction, the moment there's no other activity, landing money into that jurisdiction makes money cheaper in the international market. So you get back $31, whichever country you want to partner with for investment, you will get back $31, which is untaxed. So these fund managers will keep those reserves. Anybody can go and purchase. So people who have entrepreneurial skills need not have funds. People who generate funds need not have entrepreneurial skills. There'll be a marriage about it. It's like a bank. Like you go and borrow bank for setting up an office. They can go and borrow from these fund managers. So a combination of these two globally operated as an economic model and the underlying substance being untaxed money resulting in the generation of black money. So I'm putting it in a simple way, 1 or 2 countries and 1 or 2 structures. For this to happen, you will have to involve, say, 20, 30 structures. What do you mean by 20, 30 structures? It's like diffusing the light through several filters. You should keep passing the monies through different nations and different structures and different businesses, that at some point of time, the origin of the money cannot be traced. so complex it will be. And that happens through rest of the bullets in that in this slide. What therefore you need, everybody needs multiple shell companies. Companies who have only namesake. In fact, the last bullet is a very popular quote. Delaware is an important place in US. There is a street which alone has some 3 lakh companies. One street has address of some 3 lakh plus companies. And it is very commonly told, what do you mean by Delaware? Is dollars and euros laundered and washed at reasonable expenses. So money becomes cheaper through those routes. Now you have more than 30 million shell companies were operating in the world. And what do these shell companies and the rest of them do? See, it is like this. As you have fund managers who fund you, as you have businessman who needs this fund at a cheaper rate, you also have third-party intermediaries who will do all the structuring for you based on the country of choice you make. There are service providers. If you want to pay one corporation something in the corporation, don't you not outsource somebody who knows so very well, who is well connected with the corporation guys? It is like this. So you have professional service providers. He will give you structure. He will give you bogus entities. He will give you Binami names. He will give you fellows who will have passport for 10 different countries. He will like a avatar. He will appear in any country, any day he wants. So this is all part of the system. And together, they operate a tax haven. Now, this is okay, you have a tax haven is okay, but money has to be generated. So what forces people to resort to black money? Attitude not to pay tax. You just don't want to pay tax. India is a typical nation. Out of 130 crores, the tax compliant rate is 5 to 6%. In fact, Professor Vaidyanathan will say, no, you're wrong. You should divide 130 into basically 4 as a family. Therefore, it is only 30 crores. And 18 crores go to agriculture. So out of 12 crores, if you put 6% on 130 crores, that's the compliance rate you should compute. Well, theoretically, it may sound very positive, but that's not how we measure. When you say all over the world, the index is measuring tax percentage vis-a-vis GDP. What do you mean by GDP? Gross domestic product. All of us would have heard it a million times. It is nothing but the total production of manufactured goods and the value of total production of manufactured goods, the total value of services put together. That will constitute the GDP of a nation. So India's tax compliance, I'm going to show a slide a little later, is hardly anything. Very half to 1/3 or half of the percentage compared to the world standards. So these two, attitude is a big challenge, and high rates of taxes, which India has been considerably reducing in the last 15 years. But if you see the growth chart in personal income tax and in income tax rate, income tax compliance, in 45 years, we have grown only by 7%. Very, very, very marginal. So India is a country which citizens dodge paying taxes. And this rest of them add to, this is how black money gets generated at the source. You don't account your receipt. So take for India, you can buy it online, you can buy it offline. When you buy it online, you will swipe a credit card. It therefore gets booked. But when you buy the same product offline, there is a possibility for you to offer it as a cash and then take delivery, in which case it may go untaxed. Suppression of receipts, inflation of expenditure. You overbook your expenditure. See, over-invoicing and inflation of expenditure became the cardinal principle all over the world post-globalization. Everybody, in fact, the taxes we have all paid in, whoever has paid, in especially in the corporate sector, it's a universal truth. Their tax payment would be more than 25% than what normally tax is able to be paid by the company. He will still have an assessment proceedings, he will still have an attachment. But take it from me, every company will try to overshoot by 20-25% because based on which has loans, based on which it has a corporate standing, based on which share market miles will improve. There are several other benefits to it. See what happened in one of the computer companies in India. All that he did finally was started to print his own bank passbooks. Instead of bank entering the accounts, actual account, he started to print and gave it. Because he had to compete with 5 more major players in the country in the same industry. So how does he compete? He started to show to his investors, this is my balance sheet, and these are my credentials, these are my results. And what happened? It just burst one fine day because there was no underlying wealth as reported, as shown or as displayed. So this overinflation, under-invoicing, smuggling, counterfeit is a game. When I come to demonetization in 2 minutes I'll spend on this. India has 3 big counterfeit transacting points: Nepal, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. All of us know about it. And government control and political factors, I'll come to it a little later. Then, what is wrong, sir, in having a tax haven? You say that you are getting cheaper money. So after all, we should encourage. All of us encouraged. All of us encourage. See, for us, India, it's normally the Mauritius route, where there is no capital gains tax. See, there is a difference between income and capital. Income is liable to tax. Capital is not liable to tax. Debt or loan is not liable to tax. So how do you bring your income into India? You don't bring the income. You bring only as a debt. So somebody from some countries, 3 partners join together. They start a subsidiary in Mauritius and a holding structure in India and say they invest, say, 1,000 crores. And after 10 years or 5 years, 1,000 crores becomes 10,000 crores value. Now, if you sell the Indian entity share, the holding company structure, suppose somebody wants to buy it at 10,000 crores. If he buys the holding company share, he will have to pay capital gains tax of 20% in India. Whereas the same share in Mauritius, which is 100% subsidiary, which is nothing but our Burma Bazaar post office like 10 by 10 shop. If he buys the same share at 10,000 crores at Mauritius, there is no capital gains tax at Mauritius. So by buying the Mauritius share, you can actually hold the shares of the holding entity in India and the entire net worth of assets, because the entire asset lives only in India. So you save 2,000 crores of capital gains tax. And the 2,000 crores will be recycled back into India as an FDI investment. So, higher rate of inflation, increase in liability, social development, economic growth, and anti-social, all these becomes, at one stage you are generating money because it's coming into India, more money is coming into India. But because it is an untaxed money, see, the source can be 2. If you generate it from India and then bring it, then it is not taxed at both points. If you don't generate, you buy it from the fund manager and then give it. And then after the improvement happens after 5 years and the capital gains don't get taxed, again, India is a loser to that extent. So these are the ill effects of tax haven, which every country started to understand and realize post the global meltdown. What are the avenues, especially in a country like India? What are the avenues to make black money? You must have avenues, openings to generate. Land and real estate is anything to do with agricultural land and real estate. It's a huge mafia. And this generates potentially a huge percentage of black money. As I said, You can put a mice and take a dinosaur out of it. You can put a dinosaur and take a mice out of it. Any amount of profits you book in agriculture. In fact, two things baffle. We always say when we do a matter also, the kind of constructions, see, the cement is a fairly organized industry. Mini cement plants, again, evade duty. Basically, cement plants are more organized than steel industries. So every building structure requires steel and cement. If you actually crack them and find out the quantity of consumption which they have used in their books, every skyscraper in this country will be an engineering marvel, built only on cement, without steel, or negligible quantity of steel. Steel is a black industry. So it is perplexing, quite perplexing. This is one area which generates a lot of black money, gold. In fact, Dr. Vaidya was saying, in fact, last week we used it in one of the speeches. He used to say, if India stops purchase of gold for 2 days, we can send 2 Mangalyans to space. That's the kind of consumption we have on gold. When I close the talk, I will refer to gold and the FDI investment as to how we need to tap it post-COVID. Gold is a huge, huge black money generating object. Stocks and derivatives. See, why we say stocks? How do you generate black money out of? What is this, sir? You have a script. And the script is purchased by people. All stock exchanges accounting it. Duly reflected. Everything is transparent. What are you talking? How does stock market generate black money? See, a man who wants to pump black money and convert it into white, what will he do? He will choose one completely unknown stock value 10 rupees. And he will start investing in it, pushing. So the stock will go from 10 to 100, 100 to 500, 500 to 1000, 1000 to 1200. Then it will gain visibility in the exchange. People will think, oh God, this is increasing every day. So people will start, all you and me like gullible investors will start buying a 10 rupee share at 1200 rupees. So it's a laundering machine. So he will keep laundering all his black money into it. The moment saturation, he has laundered the whole thing, whitewashed. That fellow, that rogue knows when to exit. He will suddenly withdraw, all the money is out of it. And the stocks will come back to 1 rupee. And you and I would have to bear the loss. So derivative is still worse. Stock, at least you can at least see the credibility. If you put little interest, you can find it out. Derivative is a magic. You convert a debt into a saleable proceed income, convert a debit into an debt into an asset in your balance sheet, and starts showing that asset as a recoverable, and then starts trading on it. This was an instrument discovered post 2009 to recover. And this derivative economy is assumed to be anywhere between 60 trillion to 600 trillion. God, it's a guess by everybody. And post-COVID, you'll all know what happens to all these type of gambling. Sports, huge. If all of us stop watching news channels and sports channels for 1 year, we'll say we'll boycott. Most of them will have to be closed. Globalization middlemen, I'll come. In fact, there are 6 other textbooks which I read on this. How global black money works. It's a huge area, wonderfully captured by different authors. Lack of time, therefore, we'll have it as part 2 some other time. There is so much, this all, see, after post-globalization, black money, if somebody can generate 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 5 lakhs black money in India, was considered to be a terrific guy. Or if theaters can sell, it will show a film which not even 10%, 10 people will say, but it would have torn at least 500 tickets as sold and offer it. So these are all the small ways the guys were making black money. Global black money today, 10,000 crores, 25,000 crores, is just not a big deal. It's just not a big deal. So education. In fact, Dr. Vaidya sent me a report today. 6,000 crores per year India generates as black money out of capitation fee. He can say that because he's one university from day 1 in 84 till date and future, not a rupee is taken as capitation fee. 6,000 crores a year you generate capitation fee, black money as capitation fee. Bank scams. See, RBI has, as a regulator, controls 4 types of banks in India: scheduled banks, private banks, NBFCs, and cooperative banks. And we have seen large-scale scams in all the 4 sectors. Informal economy, agriculture, and then all our stores. And because they don't want to, they are used to handling, and after all, they handle meager cash. It's not that you can handle 1 crore, 10 crore, 100 crore in cash economy. It's not possible. So they don't need bank, they don't need structures. Liquor. For every state government, this is a real money spinner. Except for production, the moment it is produced and labeled, then it comes under government control till it is sold by the government shops to the consumer. So if you want to book 10 bottles as production, 3 bottles as sold, and 1 bottle as unsold, 6 bottles as somebody's money, it goes. All these audits, everything is done. It's all completely orchestrated by the local officials. So liquor is a huge money spinning, black money spinning business in India. And legitimate money becoming illegitimate. You will pay, you will swipe a credit card and then it goes into the transactional mode, the platform records it. But the dealer who sells it, after booking it, draws the money and allows it to circulate a percentage of it in cash towards a nefarious activity, then legitimate money goes out of the stream. Dangerous. And all this gets sustained brilliantly because of slow investigation and detective mechanism and slow court process. See, the kind of people, the resource, whether it is a normal policeman who needs for security or an investigation officer in the country for these offenses, they are very eager. If a particular officer of a very high order who is investigating sensitive matters, if you ask somebody from a company A to come today, then if a second statement has to be recorded, he gives a date after 45 days because he has to investigate 45 other cases for the next 45 days. So this is the infrastructure inability, which again becomes a sourcing ground. Arms trafficking, terrorism, treaty shopping, which I dealt, tax haven. If you insulate it through an agreement with that nation, then it becomes, Mauritius is one example of a treaty shopping. All of us, why did India do, you'll ask? Because UK is doing, because Japan is doing, Singapore is doing, US is doing. That's why Vodafone said, why it is right. I'll come to it in a minute's time. Counterfeit point and Hawala. Hawala can be either cash or gold. Both happens in Hawala transaction. What do you mean by Hawala? See, suppose you have to give somebody, your cousin, some gift in Delhi, 1,000 rupees check. So you call your cousin, say you give her 1,000 rupees, whenever I meet, I give. This is something which transactional point is between two known and for an end use of some marriage or something. But if two people in India, one end from Kanyakumari to Delhi say, I need to transact 10 crores and he gives 10 crores and he gives, because money cannot be moved, it becomes Hawala. And if it happens cross-border, it becomes cross-border Hawala. So this is again a huge, so money actually physically doesn't move as we all think. How does this political money get circulated? You pay a voter and you know how he or she is going to spend it. That's exactly what the report says. So they go to the spending channel and recover back the money after paying them a commission. So this 2,000 or 5,000 which is given comes back, recycled, rebundled and kept ready for the next dispensation. The whole track goes again and again and again. You don't have to generate it every time. It's not possible. So that's how it happens. Now, what are the economic impacts of this black money? It has both good effects and you'll be surprised. What are you saying, sir? You've been talking for half an hour or 40 minutes now. so discouraging with all these facts and say that's good for the country. Yeah, it does good also. It also does good. How does it do good? I've been telling you cheaper money, cheaper investments. Interfacing structures which does not tax debt or capital or capital gains. Mauritius, for example, in India. You will have same thing in Cayman Island. You will have same thing in BVI. You will have same thing in Atlas in Netherlands. Every geographical territory has their own, because the business and partners, they choose which destination and therefore which treaty and therefore which route. So when you get cheaper money in the FDI, see, it comes either as equity, the FDI route as an investment, or as a loan through a GDR. Now, this money, because it is invested in India, it enhances employment opportunity. It enhances production. It enhances consumption. Therefore, more money gets circulated, more income is generated. People have more money in their pockets. And because there is more consumption, the cost of rendition of service or production of goods starts coming down. None of us could have afforded the cars or any of the MNC branded, starting from a stove. None of us can afford to buy it at its intrinsic price if it had to be manufactured or rendered after paying, after the transaction is a clean transaction with tax. It is impossible. That's why I say, see, if you want to manufacture you can have a gold bar, but if you want to manufacture an ornament, you have to add some alloy, copper to it. Only then you can make an ornament. Therefore, every economy, to ensure goods are available at affordable prices, encourage infusion of black money through these investments. And therefore, the Supreme Court in Vodafone said, if you see the length of the investment, see the strength of the investment, see how much it has absorbed in terms of employment, productivity, how much of taxes are being paid, what is its value addition to a nation? If it satisfies, and see what is its future plan, if the investment is going to stay back in India in spite of a transfer, then whether you are governed by treaty or not governed by treaty, don't tax the transaction to capital gains, because ultimately it has only enhanced or allowed the country to grow. Don't tax them and take it out. Because you will take the money out, suck the money out of the supply chain, then it's going to bring the economy down. You can't afford to do it. No nation has done it. So we will also not do it. So this is the good side of generation of black money. But it also has the bad side, because the same route can be used by trusts, by anybody, any charitable organizations, X, Y, Z, or even a business structure. Same route is used to bring money through a structure and use it for evil purposes. And one such big blast India had a decade back was this participatory notes. See, if you and I have to buy a stock, our KYC compliance will always remain very, very stupendous. But if a foreign investor is going to bring money through a P note, it ensured that identity is not shown. It ensured that it's a government document. It said you should not reveal your identity and give money to India. We will not ask the source. So imagine if those monies come into India, not necessarily they will all be plowed, because if it's going to be plowed for a good purpose, then the structure can always be shown. Because he will have to show it, because he has to record the transaction. Unless his investment increases in value, he cannot sell it at a profit. He has not come to do business with charity in mind. So P notes was a huge damning exercise in India for infusion of ill-gotten wealth through an ill-gotten structure for ill-gotten purposes. Now, what does black money? We saw the good side of it. Now we'll see the bad side of it. What does black money actually do? It actually weakens every nation, every growing nation. When it comes to political, it is one of the biggest. See, today, if there's a vote swing of say 2 to 4%, if votes between two contesting candidates, the swing is found to be 2 to 4. Those constituencies are finally fought only by purchase votes, rigged. And these monies, therefore, change the political dimensions and fit. If so much of money is invested to win a seat, you can understand it's an investment. Nobody is going to do charity after winning the elections. So this is one huge area. And terrorism, violence this route works only in this corridor. In fact, when I cited the cryptocurrency judgment, one of Luxembourg, one of the tax havens, they said we recognize crypto as an official currency when none of the nations have so far declared it so. It has the properties of a currency, but it has not been declared as a legal tender as yet. But Luxembourg, which is a tax haven, has declared it. So it becomes a hub. And cryptocurrency is completely private. Your identity is concealed forever. No one will know how much you are worth. So these are the damning effects of black money in the political structure. In the social structure, see, you would have seen the last 10, 12 years. Anybody can organize huge protests for any length of period. And it requires a lot of funding. Nobody comes and sits there for a Dandi march. So all this, in fact, there is a Smith-Spanner book, some author, he's a professor in the US. He has written a book, how innovative techniques will happen in democratic, 170 techniques he has captured in a book. These are all the techniques which will be used to block, to bring down what happened in Egypt, what happened in Hong Kong, what happened any part of the world. It's all the techniques, 170 such techniques have been found, that these are all the possible techniques which future world will use whenever they want, whenever they feel it convenient. And how does it happen? Unless you have money behind it. Drug and immoral trafficking. This press media, we will touch it on next Saturday. Then it's huge threat to religion, religious practices, traditions, values, and culture. Youth are the real victims out of this. Your style of life, your style of thinking, the way you approach questioning, all this happens out of what? Because of luxury. And freedom is the space you get, the media space you get to contribute. Therefore, the texture of a nation can easily be converted, whitewashed. At the roots, you can pour acid and kill it. This happens socially in developing nations. Then arms market and black money and corruption are, they're inseparable. Any part of the world. And whichever nation buys a lot of arms, historically it is captured with evidence that area will be a zone of conflict, zone of political unrest and instability and tension. And we have friends and foes all around us. So this is one. And this is very important. we have seen all these reasons. How does it happen ultimately? This is something which the Supreme Court has said. The nexus between the maker of the law, the keeper of the law, and the breaker of the law is unbreakable. So we keep attempting so many things. We also keep attempting in this direction. The biggest, see, two things happened in USA which made them, triggered them to think about this. One was the 9/11 attack. They started to hunt on the terrorist funding. And in 8 years' time, they virtually closed it. It took 8 years and they finally cleaned it up. And 2009 meltdown resulted in global G20 summit then doing the reinvention. Of course, there is a clear school of thought. There is enough text also to support. The beneficiaries of G20 is they wanted to bring, because so much, 1 trillion, 2 trillion, you invest into the market to bail them out. So they wanted a unification of countries to support, and the biggest beneficiaries are America and UK. That's why Germany and France opposed it beyond a point. We said, I think we are fed up with you. There is no equal benefits which flow into us. And terrorism is this FATFA, which is a France-based global organization, which keep listing and delisting. But this is not, it's not you produce evidence on a paper and then it gets declared. As a political, anything global movement will have a political ramification. Exchange of information, this is something which is improving, which has considerably improved. See, we all would have seen in the Tamil cinema in those days, a villain with a hat and a cooling glass, a box on the left hand and a pistol on the right hand. And the highest he will say 10 lakhs black money in Swiss account. All this, how many times you would have heard? So Swiss was an origin, even it all emerged during the First World War and it legitimized during the Second World War. That's what history says. Switzerland is a landlocked country. Once the World War I was over, then all the European Union said you have to fund. Switzerland quietly said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a party to it. Every other European nation increased the taxes. So Switzerland said, you can come and open Swiss bank accounts. We will conceal and protect secrecy. So that's how it originated. And when you say secrecy, because that country's law, you must read Swiss law. Very, very draconic prior to 2011. Nothing can be given by that nation. It's a sovereign commitment. So they started to puncture this everywhere. He said, now several hundreds plus countries have signed this EOA document. At least post 2011 transaction. Prior to that, tug of war is going on. Post 2011, on a drop of a mail or on a call, the bank, whichever part you are, should furnish information. That is happening in a big way. Then US thought, see, it's only 4% tax we have been getting. Okay, you do business anyway. It kept on hunting the structure beyond a point it couldn't do anything. So it said, if it is an American company, its entire global income will be taxed in America 11%. You can have any structure you want. The easiest way. Of course, it is anti-BEPS. That is why BEPS have not come. We have been talking about BEPS for 5 years. BEPS have not seen the light because America is against BEPS, basic erosion. Now, India will be a beneficiary out of BEPS, whereas America will be a loser out of BEPS. Then COVID deglobalization, at least now we should realize. See, globalization has escalated all the structures. Where will you think of a FDI investment of 1 lakh crore, 10 billion, 15 billion? It's all now. Currently, in this COVID situation, I can tell you, or with a great sense of responsibility, investments to the tune of 2 lakh crores are all planned. It's all there in the public. Investments into India, people are ready to invest to the extent of 2 lakh crores. Business deals are happening. So our corporate strength is appreciated during COVID recovery period. So something, when it has impacted all of us who are all in the regular economy, in the mainstream economy, it has affected everybody's life. Imagine in this last 100 days, Other than essentials, have we done anything? One luxury. And all of us are living happily with our families. So God has taught us what is our basic nature and what is the difference between need and greed. I only wish the black market economy also is impacted with COVID. It will. It will. There will be some recovery, which one hope nature will give to all of us. And those Supreme Court decisions, SIT, all this is all in the happening stage only. These are the agendas we had to declare all these 5 national goals, but we are marching towards it. That's all we can say at this point of time. Now, yeah, Prateek, I have about 7-8 minutes more, or I can close this without even to deal with it.
Sir, we have time, sir.
Okay, fine. See, there are different ways of thinking. Demonetization has succeeded or not. That's a separate subject by itself. But you must understand why that pitch of demonetization at least happened. Because black money and demonetization are again a pairs. We should understand at least why did it happen. See, when any small nation or a developed nation pays about 35% GDP, tax GDP ratio is in the range of 33 to 35%. Suppose 10 lakh crores is the total GDP, 3.5 lakh crores will be recovered as taxes. Whereas India tax ratio to GDP is only 18%, half of it. And therefore, rest of the half is not coming, even though we have so much of economic activity. Can you imagine the volume of business which India does? And only instead of recovering 33%, or realistically speaking, 27, 28%, wherever you pitch, 10 to 15% difference non-recovery, where does it go? And when they computed it on 31st March, this is a report from that IBAT professor, IIM Bangalore professor. On 31st March, they found out 16,415 billion is the total currency circulation. In 2001, our 1,000 rupee and later 2,000 rupee was only at 1.7% consumption rate. In 2016, it was 38.6%. Our 500 rupee note in 1990 started with 4% consumption. It shot up to 47.8%. So the two large currency notes occupied close to 86.4% of the total currency market. Out of 16 billion, almost 14 billion was only these two notes. When it was demonetized, surprisingly, these are the results. It improved the advance tax, say, by 47.79%. And the personal income tax grew by 34.25%. Of course, the GDP, tax to GDP ratio did not increase. It did not increase. And it resulted in a undisclosed settlement of, say, 67,000 crores, which is hardly what, 10 billion. As against, imagine, 14,000 billion of 86% of currency usage. So the reasons they attribute: agrarian, informal, and most importantly, this is a fact-finding, they say you could do something with the local demonetization process, but you couldn't stop the international market, which kept on peddling money through structured channels, brought it up to the delivery point in a measured, structured way. And once you draw, then the recycling was completely under their control. And you keep recycling it any number of times you want. So, this I'll take only 2 minutes. There are 4 laws: the Black Money Act, the PMLA Act, the Income Tax Act, and the Benami Transaction Act. Income Tax Act Section 69 has been amended in an elaborate way where your local transactions, domestic transactions, which are black money, will be absorbed under that act. Black Money Act is for assets and income earned abroad. PMLA Act will apply the moment if this money is found to be money arising out of crime, proceeds of crime. Black Money Act is a pure tax enactment. It simply taxes you, punishes you with 30% and 90% a penalty. So 120% is the cumulative effect if the money is unearthed. Whereas PMLA is something which is a criminal offense as per schedule. And the schedule includes Black Money Act also. And Benami Transaction Act, now the benefits which was given to the original owner have all been taken away. So a Benami transaction completely gets captured to tax and treatment. So proceeds of money, offenses of money, how undisclosed foreign income asset, all this is 300% penalty. All this will finally go in that way. See, two takeaways at least for the youth, which I thought I should share it. The whole idea of conveying this 60-minute talk is for you to have a broad picture how this market operates. See, tomorrow you may become people, you may be high qualified professionals, you may access government services, you may be in high position, you may become ministers, you have a chance, you may get a chance to legislate, you may be anything. So have this in mind that somewhere over a period of time, see, you must be aware of, don't chase the husk, chase the grains, read subjects, read ideas, and find out what is actually intrinsically happening to the country. This awareness is a must. 2, post-COVID, post this globalization era now has proved to be an illusion. It will remain an illusion now. It's not going to be anymore what it was till March. Nothing is going to be affordable that easily. So we have to go back to the basics. So if you go back to a needy, thrifty economy with lot of savings and trying to live a simple and a frugal life, if greed is substituted by need, see, these are all things which as citizens we can do. Expecting a huge change, at a structural change, it's all connected with global phenomena. It's no longer in the control of a handful of people. Whatever happens somewhere else, it has an impact on India. See, with $470 billion as foreign reserves, which many countries cannot boast of, we can't be doing something which will collapse that. Then rupee will collapse. If rupee collapse, already we have enough problems with COVID. So this is something which all of you should plan in your mind as a takeaway out of this 60 minutes. If it serves this purpose in your mind, and if it instills or triggers these thoughts in your mind, then this 60 minutes is actually worth investing to all of you. Thank you once again, MTB. Thanks, APS, for the suggestion to talk. It didn't occur to me at all till you said day before yesterday. And thanks, Prativ. And I'm ready to take some questions if there are any. Thank you once and all. Thanks for all the people who have listened to it.
Thank you once again, sir, for this such a wonderful session. So to all the participants, now the floor is open for your queries. You can raise your hands in the app, or you can send a message in the chat box. The chat option is enabled. We can take up questions. I see a first question from Mr. Ramana Kumar, sir. I'll just unmute him, sir. Ramana Kumar, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are seeable, you are audible.
Thank you. Sir, it was an excellent exposition of the complete black money life cycle. I should say that you have captured almost all the areas. thanks a lot for it. It was really very nice of you to have done it in such a short notice. Sir, my one question is, Section 68 of the Income Tax Act very clearly taxes unknown investments, unknown incomes. For this participatory notes, we have been trying this right from 2003 to enable the Income Tax Act to tax the participatory notes. Now with the income tax reassessment opening up to 8 years and for foreign incomes up to 16 years, is it a good time for the government to enact such a legislation under Section 68, enable 68 and tax the participatory notes, whichever companies have got the participatory notes, try to tax them, A. And B, we all know that as you have rightly said, the monies from India have gone out and come back into India as FDI through the Mauritius route, through the Cayman Island route, Cyprus route, and all other routes which you have explained so very well. Is it possible now that with the larger arm which the government has for 16 years of reopening the assessment in case of foreign assets and things like that, to bring all this under the legislation and tax it?
See, there are two sides to it.
Your thoughts on that? Why the government has not activated it?
See, there are two sides to it. There is no promissory estoppel. Sovereign can always reverse its view. The first stand is you allowed P notes under an official channel. Government said you bring. So on the strength of which it has been brought. And suppose it has gone into a good investment in terms of Vodafone. Now, would it be right to penalize such investments?
Okay.
Now, the same P note, major portion would have gone only for a wrong use. Now, therefore, whether you should target it and then kill it. You can always target it and kill it, because that is not because you go through a P note. Because the very investment, the very use is unacceptable, antisocial and illegal, you can always crack it there. So instead of cracking it at the P note stage, find out the roots of the P notes and where it has traveled, and crack those shell investments and the evil investments and the illegal investments which they should do. That selective process is required, because many would have even brought it as a cheap money into India and invested it in company and grown wealth in the last 10 years.
Correct.
And that is something which you have done it based on your own undertaking, assurance that you don't want your identity. So this slight distinction needs to be preserved is just one view.
Sir, what is the reason actually for allowing the participatory notes to come in such a clandestine manner? Any history to that?
No, we can't discuss it in public.
Okay, offline. Okay, understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have JK sir wanted to ask some questions. I'll unmute him.
Yeah.
There are a couple of questions in the chat box also, sir.
Sure. I'll take it. I have time.
Yes. JK sir, good evening.
Sir, very good evening.
Namaste.
Like every other speech or your session, finally you sum up with a message. That is wonderful, really. I mean, very soul touching, because every time, whatever it be the topic, black money, GST, or anything for that matter, you derive a message out of it for the young generation. And thank you for that. Sir, I have a small question. One is, what would be the measures you would suggest to the government, primarily on the tax front, to eradicate this black money? People have been trying so many, bank transaction tax was there, lesser taxation was on suggestive model, then get into a cash transaction tax or a fee was one model. So many suggestions are coming, time immemorial. But is there any really workable model? And it should be for horses for courses. We have to think of India. We are talking about 130 crores of people. And for this kind of population, with, with such a kind of knowledge, education, tax compliance, do you have a suggestion, a workable solution to this?
Now, the laws are.
Apart from whatever you suggested to us, yes, of course, திருடனாய் பார்த்து திருந்தாவிட்டால் திருட்டை ஒழிக்க முடியாது. I do agree with you. There should be a reformation, there should be a revolution, there should be a change which you are seeding. I agree to that. But from the lawmakers, do you suggest anything?
See, there are enough laws, enough and more. And I can tell you out of, I say this with a deep sense of responsibility, the investigative skills of our officers are stupendous. Indian intelligence are really intelligent. They have the capability. Now, in spite of laws and the intelligence to investigate, when it does not mature, there is a dichotomy between citizens and governance. Citizens want results. Governance need it. So this disconnect. See, when like a quarterly, half-yearly exam, every 3 months, every 6 months, there's an election in some state in India because we are a federal country. And now every election is a Mahabharata war. So you need recycling 4 times in a year for political parties. What can law and intelligence do? So unless this need goes, that is why, see, when I talk next Saturday also on press, the advice to the children will be how you should isolate. What little we can do only that little, Jay. And that little will be, can our children be in the mainstream of our life? Whoever we meet, we speak. And we can't say, because that fellow is irresponsible, I will also be irresponsible. That's not an answer. Changes don't happen that way.
True.
So this changes at a citizen's end. When there is no need for a lady to collect 3,000 rupees to go and vote, if that need stops, if there is a political leader, for example, I'll give you an example. Suppose there is a political leader who is able to stand up and secure votes without somebody being enticed by this 3,000 rupees. Funding will stop there. In fact, they used to say there was one leader who had a magical touch 40 years back. He could go and stand and win elections. He could lie on a hospital bed and win elections. No question of 2,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees per vote at that time. So these are emerging trends. People are ready to get victimized, you decide a fate of a nation or a state for 5 years in 2 minutes by collecting a couple of thousands or 5,000. Look at who are we to be blamed here? So this disconnect, the need somewhere, and the appalling condition which every citizen feels, there is a mismatch. Unless you solve it, this problem is not going to be solved. We will do our part. Let's start doing our best part. Whatever, a drop of it, it's all right. Sincere effort sometimes pays. I can only quote from philosophy, you should permit me. For bhakti, when a small bird laid eggs, because of a strong wind, the eggs went into the sea. So what did that small bird do? It put its beak, whatever little water it could collect, it collected and started putting it on the sand. Garuda was watching it. The sincere effort which that bird was taking moved Garuda. It came down, fluttered, allowed this small bird to identify the egg and move it away to the land. Nature has that power. COVID is a big lesson. Everybody experiments and analyzes COVID in a different way. I've always said it's a price we have paid for plundering this environment for 35 years, which history says for the past 300 years, the kind of exploitation that has happened to the universe, we have exceeded it multiple times in the last 30 years. So let's start slowly somewhere it will have its own engaging effects at some point of time. It's philosophical, not practical. Don't mistake me for suggesting so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll pray for the Garuda and we'll start,
That's all. That's all.
and we'll start our big work.
Correct. Be sincere. God will guide you. That's all. That's the hope. Prateek?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, I see a few more hands raised. I'll just quickly.
Go ahead.
Mr. Jyoti Krishna, sir. I'll just unmute him. Jyoti Krishna, sir.
Is there a question by Dr. Vaidya? I would like to address that if there is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Then we'll take up that question.
Yeah, straight. Because it will be one of the. He will always engage, but he will still keep the question to his as a surprise. He won't divulge it. So I would
Yes,
like to
sir.
know, and it's a learning process. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I have unmuted Vaidya, sir. Dr. Vaidya,
Yeah.
sir.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
there. Huh? Namaste, sir.
Namaste,
thanks.
sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I mean, I don't know whether, thanks for the undeserving privilege you gave me to just voluntarily ask me to question you.
No.
But nevertheless, my question is this, since last time you spoke on the Atmanirbhar Bharat Yojan, where you also spoke on gold.
Yes.
The second thing that I felt was, though you covered everything, what was conspicuously missing was black money in the self-reliant package. Black money, as you rightly said, black money in India, black money outside India. And I always borrow Professor Vaidyanathan, whom you have also extensively quoted. He says black money in India is anti-government, but black money outside India is anti-national.
Correct.
So as long as it is inside India, I'm not saying it is good, but at least it is an economic catalyst. Somewhere livelihoods are getting enriched.
Correct.
Whereas black money outside India, it enriches only a few privates. So Atmanirbhar in the context of bringing back black money outside India, did Atmanirbhar miss the bus?
Good. I think
that
it's
context.
I'm happy, sir. I'm happy you raised this point. JK, you asked some question. I'll try to answer now. I'll take this question as an answer. See, this is what is running immediately in our mind, subject to, of course, some filters. See, we are in a bad situation. Any country is in a bad situation now, but we are one nation which can bounce back because we have enormous strength in terms of people and people's private wealth. Now, this is an extraordinary situation which we have not faced in 100 years of history. See how political it will become, how courts are going to sustain, we have to examine. Suppose we use this opportunity, convert this into an opportunity and declare both gold. When we have 20,000 gold in 20,000 tons in India, well, what a kind of richness it is here. Both gold and black money asserts an income. Suppose we allow an official whitewashing mechanism. Court should not tomorrow hold and say it's unconstitutional. You have allowed for all these guys to plunder and there are no taxes. When Black Money Act is saying 30% tax and 90% penalty, which is 120%. A very minimal, see, gold, unaccounted gold, 5 years, this is what we, in fact, Vaidya sir suggested and discussed, and we said this in the last week meeting. Gold, if you say all gold bars, if we give it to the government against a bond for 5 years, and after 5 years, you will get back your gold, and there will be no interest for it, and a 5%, 1% tax per year on the value of the gold. That's all I'll recover from you. We can muzzle why 20 lakh crores much more. Similarly, this 30%, 90%, all this is all, you will have to say that because it's a social legislation. If you don't put that high percent, nobody is going to accept. If there is a consensus, we should take the citizen, media should help. If there is a consensus from all the citizens to say we will pardon, we will ignore every damn thing. Let them bring money at a nominal tax of 5%, 10%, a bonanza which nobody can believe, with absolute secrecy. Then there is a chance for us to get the money back into the mainstream. In fact, thanks, Dr. Vaidya sir, for suggesting this question. it is courts have to support it. This is an extraordinary situation. It's an emergency. It's almost a financial emergency situation today. So can we afford to leverage the wealth of India by bringing it on account? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think in 10 minutes we can wrap up. So we'll take up a couple of more questions.
Yeah. I have no problem as long as you don't have a problem.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll unmute Jyoti Krishna, sir, again.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir,
Hello.
you can ask.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram, sir.
Sir, Vanakkam.
Vanakkam.
It was a wonderful presentation, sir. I have just two small questions. We are discussing about P notes. These P notes are one of the biggest trouble that has the black money coming into India. Is it not possible that the government can take a step? What is your suggestion on that? Give it a time, maybe a 6 months time. That giving the burden of proof on the respondent to prove all the antecedents who are the parties to that P notes, rather than having our agencies to go and try and check all those things. Otherwise, the total P notes will be part of the government treasury. Is it possible like that?
See, it is technically, in fact, Black Money Act, when they brought it in 2016, you know who was pursued the first hot chase? Hot chase were all legitimate companies who have brought money invest. It's easy to identify because he will be there in the books. So what is the point in hunting those heads, sir? They are all producing wealth, rightly or wrongly. These guys whom we will have, see, your P note will not show any identity. The assurance of the P note issued by the government is you don't have to disclose. So it will all be in the locker. If you open, you will find only notes, you will find only documents which will not have any traces. So what you have to do, you will have to only go back again and hunt and investigate and find the trails. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Can it be made like, like a demonetization? You just inform all P notes are banned. Only those who are giving all those people behind those P notes.
See, yeah, you should do it. Even you see, that's a call. Even if it chokes legitimate investments, majority has gone only for illegitimate investment, in the illegitimate use. Therefore, you should ban. You can take a call. There is no promissory estoppel for sovereignty. Okay, government, you can't, especially, you can't take up a stand. You allowed me to commit a fraud. Now you can't go back. At least for penalty, for prosecution and all, that's a different trail. But for recovery of taxes, there is no estoppel. In law, that is the answer. In law, that is the answer.
Thank you, sir. One more thing. Second question is, so in my opinion, my personal opinion, that now corruption has been legalized in the form of electoral bonds. So what do you think should be happening actually in the electoral bonds, which can reduce corruption and make our election systems much better? Because you said,
how we have to change, we should go and vote, come what may. Even if you put that 48 or 49, it's worth it. We should go and vote. If we are able to show 85% polling in every booth and across India, that will send tremors to the politicians.
That is true.
It's not happening. It's a one-day holiday for us, and therefore we used to use it effectively for something else. So we don't go to vote. People who vote are influenced. They are ultimately influenced.
My question is now not allowing the candidates to spend. Make all these electoral bonds a part of election commission. Let the election commission spend everything.
So it's a political decision which, it's a will. If you read, at least we did an exercise during 2019 election. We did an intense research reading about 17, 18 Supreme Court judgment on elections. And the kind of assurances and the kind of ratios, kind of observations they have made, nothing has translated. So we can keep talking about it. Ultimately, the will has to come from people, whether it is opposition or ruling, everybody has to join hands.
That is true.
Unless that happens, It's not going to change.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I think on P notes, there was another question in the chat box, which I think is answered.
Banned. It is banned. Okay. Go ahead.
So we have a question from two more questions, sir, and then we can
Yeah.
wind up. One
Yeah.
question from Mr. Sudhakar, and after that from Mr. Balaji, sir, NV Balaji.
Oh, yeah. Who is that first?
Mr. Sudhakar, sir.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Sudhakar.
Good evening, sir. Sir,
Namaskar.
actually, my question in bank, if you see most of the black money are transported through bank only by opening false without following the KYC norm, fake import of diamonds, and this money is routed to like Bangladesh or something like that. But whether these banks are intermediate or liable for punishment, sir, for doing this, aiding this kind of activity?
No, the bank as such won't be. The persons involved in the transaction will certainly get the hook of it. But all these things are very little, sir. If you see the ratio, it's all happening in a naked daylight, in a known, perfected scenario. That's how. If you read those 6 books authored by leading international authors, in one of the book about 14 authors have written different articles. My God, it's a curse that world has become globalized. It's a curse. You can't imagine the volumes of transaction. Every step, the underlying there is something. The apparent transaction which looks very real to us is not the real transaction.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
So you
Bogus
can't pick and
diamonds.
choose. Yeah, it's not one industry or one transaction to identify. Everything which has consumption base, then that consumption base will be used to peddle black money. That's the concept ultimately. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
I'll unmute Mr. NV Balaji, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Solungappa.
There are 2 things that I thought your reflections I would require. One is somebody has been talking on participatory notes, and you had suggested that it could be in a productive investment and unproductive investment. To be precise, at least 2 of the major banks, backbone of our banking system, ICICI and HDFC, we know, is largely held in the form of participatory notes only. So this probably you may call it as a productive investment, and if it is, the apple cart is pulled in some way, it could result a failure in the banking system itself. Probably is what you are suggesting. But in any case, you have chosen not to answer on why participatory note at all.
Yeah, that's wrong. See, it has happened. What is the point in revisiting? It has happened. So it's a decision which should not have happened, but it has happened. Now, what do? Yeah, you go back and blow. See, it's like it is a Chinese checker, Balaji. Economics. See, we as lawyers want law to be enforced. Citizens want law to be enforced. But the governance model aligned with the world, you are committed to so many things. All this it's like a pack of cards. So one has a chain reaction to something else. That's what I've been repeatedly trying to say.
I'm coming to.
You should not. Yeah,
sorry, sir. I'm coming to arising out of this slightly different, which Mr. Vaidya has also taken. So long as the money has come into India, it is not an evil against the society. After all, the money lies within the economy, within the Indian economy. So probably participatory note, could it be taken one which has come to India? Therefore, we don't worry.
See, suppose it has sponsored terrorism. Suppose it has sponsored huge protests. Suppose it has sponsored, spearheaded huge religious interferences. What do you say? So we don't know. See, that is why he said apparent is not real. Okay, you invested in a bank, then a business structure borrows excessive booking of expenditure, excessive borrowing, and a portion of it gets diverted for an illegal use. collectively 10% will go for a illegal use. So what happens to the P note then? It is very difficult. We are in a mess. We have been into a mess and we have grown in the process. There are many countries which have got shattered because of the mess. We have somehow sustained compared to all the neighbors around us. We have grown. But way forward is this growth, at least it has taught us, nature has taught us, this is not the way you can grow. So we should now understand everything cannot be bought and sold through money. World cannot run on corruption. What did our children learn in the last 15 years? Ask any child, hey guys, what are you talking to us? Nonsense. See how world is working. Now these children have to realize where it has finally led the world. It can't work. World cannot work only on Adharmayar. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So whoever picks it up, he picks it up.
The other issue which I thought you may throw a little more light is with reference to the double taxation agreements that we have entered into, which had resulted in loss of taxation in India. You have taken typical Mauritian case as an example.
Yeah, but it's valid. Yeah,
but is it not a conscious call taken by the government, probably with the different aspects that have come, not just the tax? If that is the case, why should one find fault with that?
No, I'm not finding. That's why I said, if you have followed my talk, it has been why I should say validated by Supreme Court in Vodafone.
Yes.
Yeah. So how does, but Supreme Court did not say all these investments are valid. There are two ratios, one paragraph following the other. The first paragraph says, see the length of the structure, see the quantum of investment, see the economic activity, see its growth, has it added value, what are its future prospects? 10 conditions are there. It says if it satisfies all that, you forget the source of that investment. And if it says, if it does not come, if it is a shell or a round tripping, hunt. So it has given you the way. You can't blame the Supreme Court for that.
Sir, I'm compelled for one more question, sir.
Yeah, we'll see.
My apologies.
Not at all, not at all.
Not just Vodafone, no, Azadi Bachao too. No, they are all decisions which have taken not just the law into account, but
social
the aspects of economy too.
Yeah, it's an economic decision.
I would like your comments on whether it would be fair for a Supreme Court, not just in our country, any part of the world, to take anything other than law as an aspect in determining the issue before it.
In fact, I would, but for the bench. And but
no,
for
leave the bench.
I
would like to know from you the legal position with reference to.
No, I'll answer it. See, but for the bench and but for the judge who had the capability to understand global economics model, you would not have got a judgment of that kind in Vodafone itself. See, when the governance marries a particular economic model, global model, when legislature and the executive keeps attracting investment, aligning with the global model, and money comes into India, and Supreme Court goes by the rule book and say all these money should be taxed. Fine. It can say in law. What happens to that nation? We would have got COVID 10 years back. Economic COVID. If such a decision has been, if Vodafone has been passed the other way, India would have suffered an economic blackout that day.
Not necessarily. Australia has taken a different view. You are aware of it.
No, you say, see the size of the, come on, Balaji, see the size of the country and its population. You will compare Singapore and say, why did you demonetize? Singapore's population and percentage. How can you compare uncomparables? You compare a country of India's size and population and say they have done it and Supreme Court has overruled it. You can't. So you can't do this comparison. I am not supporting anything.
I know.
You have to face reality. When you understand a point, understand it holistically. How can Australia and Singapore be a comparison for us?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Sure.
thanks for taking up all the questions, sir. I think we have almost completed all the queries also. So thank you for patiently answering all the
No, it's
questions.
our duty. I'm
I'll
waiting
just,
to meet all of you next Saturday along with Suhrut. Hope APS and Jay will confirm that meeting is there, no?
Sir, I'm going to call Jay Kumar sir to give
Okay.
vote of time, and he will answer this question also, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Jay Kumar sir?
Thank you, Prithvi. Sir, it is definitely there.
Right.
After listening to this, that should be, what to say, definitely in the agenda.
There's more message for the youth there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In fact, I'm given the responsibility of thanking you. I don't know. I have to search synonyms to, I have exhausted all adjectives for you in my all previous speeches, but I'm still short. Sir, only one thing I want to before closure. Mr. Vaidya from Sastra raised a very pertinent question, as you rightly said, which brought the jewel out of this entire session.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidya, for coming and making it very lively, which is a wonderful question. In that, I just wanted to ask you before parting. I just want to ask you one thing, sir, because you gave a very bold proposition, off the record, I want to say that India would have suffered economic COVID. Was a fantastic. Quote. I loved it. Coming back. Now you said that reduced rate, say very 5% or 10%, even on the quantum, a very less percentage if it is going to be prescribed, then it can be another way or a route to bring back the wealth to India. That's a very bold proposition. And we had one opportunity, but we gave, last year or 2 years back, we had the BDIS along with just before the demonetization, but still the rates were 45% plus. That's what exactly, I don't know the numbers, right? If it would have been 5% or 10%, but I was told, it is only I want to understand from you, that it was, quotes would have come heavily if there would have been a very 5% or 10% on equity. They would have come heavily, they would have come down heavily on the legislature, and that is the reason they wanted to maintain that 45% was what I heard of. That's why you very correctly said, without any court's intervention, it has to be done, and they should also support it. It was a very, very fine, bold, wonderful proposition, which is acceptable to everyone. That is what I asked in the first question. That what should be your suggestion? Of course, through Mr. Vaidya's...
it didn't trigger me till Vaidya put me on the...
Mr. Vaidya, this is what exactly I wanted.
It didn't trigger me till then, till he asked.
Yes,
but once
that's
he
why
asked, I thought...
Thanks to Mr. Vaidya, who brought out the exact... that is the jewel of this entire session is all about. And wish the better sense prevails in future. And thanks for wonderful session, sir. You gave us a very thought-provoking, as usual. And thanks one and all. And this is the 50th day we are, as APS said, this is the 50th day we are continuously running this webinars. Special thanks to APS for such, it is sustenance is the key. Starting, everybody can start a movie, everybody can end the movie, but taking it for 2.5 hours is the skill of a director. He had been a wonderful director, taking it into 50th day. Today we are doing our 66th webinar. Thank you, APS. Special mention to you. Thank you, Prithvi. You have been exemplary, tireless, and doing it day in, day out. Thomas Alva Edison used to say, the greatest thing about an invention is it should repeat every time. It should not happen only once. And you are Thomas Alva Edison's bulb to MTB, and thank you. Thank you, sirs. And with this, I conclude the session.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, JK sir. You never fail in telling such kind words again and again. Thank you once again very much, sir. Thank you, Venkatraman sir, for the wonderful session again. We will definitely see you soon again, sir.
Thank you.
I thank all the participants for joining us today. This session will be uploaded in our YouTube channel. If you have missed the session, you can always find the session on YouTube. So I thank you once again. And tomorrow's session will the details of it will be shared tomorrow. But there are other big sessions happening in different forums. So tomorrow's session will be notified as we come across those sessions also. So thank you once again for joining us. Stay safe and have a good day ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. I'm ending the session now.